Welcome, dear friends, to Who's Who in the Bible, Praying with Biblical Characters, New Testament series. This evening, we will dwell on the character of Herod the Great, the Romanization of Judea. It's because of the archaeological excavations begun 50 years ago and still continuing, we have been able to come up with a new portrait of Herod the Great. There's a new appreciation of the man, new information that's leading us to a new appraisal of his person. He remarkably changed the landscape of Judea. He opened Judea to the world, and the world came to know Judea. Let us study his life and the legacy he left behind. Let us pray. We beseech you, dear Father, to help us make sense of secular personalities, especially when they speak or do things in your name. Give us light to seek out their personalities and the motivations better through Christ our Lord. Dear friends, this evening I would like you to look at the outline for our study. Briefly, you have Herod the Great, his lineage and early history is linked with the Jewish Hasmoneans. Herod and Augustus Caesar. The Romanization of Judea is artistic, monumental accomplishments. The first one, the renovation of the Jerusalem temple and the addition of the court of the Gentiles. Second, Caesarea Maritima, the port city open to the west. I must admit, I have made use of a number of resources for this study, chiefly those by Peter Richardson and Amy Marie Fisher, Normal Gelb, and others who I will refer to as we go along. Let's dwell on the first point, Herod the Great, the lineage and early history. Herod the Great is a figure of phenomenal achievement. From Edom, the land of Esau, the brother of Jacob, after Alexander the Great, the land of Edom came to be known as the land of Idumea. So Herod was always considered an Idumean. Now, Idumea had also the influence of a significant number of migrating tribes that came to Idumea from neighboring Arabia and Nabatea. Hence, Herod had Arab influence on him. He was born in 74 BC to an Arabian princess, Cyprus. His father, Antipater, was politically active. He had converted to Judaism along with his father much earlier during the invasion of John Hyrcanus I in 135 to 104 BC of the Hasmoneans. He entertained the hope that one day his son Herod would become the king of the Jews. How much of a Jew was Herod? See what Jewish scholars have to say. For example, the Jewish scholar Samuel observes that Herod's father Antipater was a Jew and he needed to be regarded as a Jew and accepted fully as a Jew. But what about Herod, his son? Was he a Jew? By contrast, Herod was reconciled to an external practice of Judaism, he says, but never with mind or heart or soul. Perhaps you'd like to look at a close resemblance of Herod the Great on the screen. There's another Herodian scholar, Michael Grant. He summarizes Herod the Great very succinctly. He says, Jew by religion, Idumean and Arab by race, Greek by cultural sympathy, Roman by political allegiance, these different instincts and inclinations mingled uncomfortably in Herod's mind and heart. He possessed the absolute conviction that the only way his country could survive was by aligning itself with the wider world outside. We now come to the next point, is linked with the Jewish world of the Hasmoneans. Herod, as I said, was an Edomite, Idumean. He's a total outsider. How can he enter into Jewish history? Into Judea, the land of the sons of Jacob. Edomites, as we know, were averse to the Judeans and vice versa. If you remember, we had done long ago Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat and wept. When Nebuchadnezzar came and ransacked Jerusalem, the Edomites said, laid bare down to its foundations. The Edomites connived with the Babylonians for the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. And the Judeans never forgot what the Edomites had done against them. And now it appears that Herod, one Edomite, would want to restore the temple beyond what Zerubbabel had done after the exile. But Herod must first insert himself into Judean history. Now, Antipater, the father of Herod, was in Judea. He wanted his piece of cake, which was in fact the whole cake. He enters Judea at the time of the successors, the grandsons of John Hyrcanus I. They are two brothers, John Hyrcanus II now and Aristobulus II, two brothers. Just look on the screen, the two brothers. However, things did not go as planned for Antipater because the Romans entered the equation in Judea. The Roman commander, Pompey the Great, judged the situation in Judea and denied the crown to either of the brothers. But Aristobulus, the younger brother, rebelled against Pompey, and Pompey conquered Judea by force in 63 BC. Judea lost her independence. Pompey left John Hyrcanus II as high priest. Antipater, at this moment, judged the situation very shrewdly. He maintained a close contact with the Romans in Damascus. In every way he could, he made himself useful to the Romans. He cultivated especially a special relationship with a young Roman officer, Mark Antony, who would later play a significant role in Herod's rise to power. As Pompey rose to power in Rome, dear friends, Julius Caesar also grew in fame and popularity through his military triumphs. At one point, there was a deadlock between Pompey and Julius Caesar, and this deadlock, in a way, was settled through the marriage of Pompey to the daughter of Julius Caesar, Julia. But once Julia passed away, the partnership between the two ended. The Roman Senate, on its part, promoted Pompey because it observed that Julius Caesar was more intent on turning the republic into an empire. The fate of Antipater and Judea rested or depended on the outcome of the civil war between Pompey and Julius Caesar. In the Battle of Pharsalus, Greece, in 48 BC, Pompey was defeated. Antipater now positively helped Julius Caesar in Egypt. What did he do? In Julius Caesar's encounter with Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy XIII, Antipater came there to Julius Caesar's rescue with funds and supplies. And Julius Caesar was victorious against Ptolemy XIII. Cleopatra seemed to want to join Julius Caesar. Cleopatra wanted Julius Caesar to install her as the ruler of Egypt. And in turn, Julius Caesar wanted the wealth of Egypt to help him finance his rise to power in Rome. Julius Caesar recognized the role Antipater had played and named him procurator of Judea. That means he became the representative of Rome's authority in Judea. He was awarded Roman citizenship, and so were Herod and other members of his family. Whereas Hyrcanus II was appointed ethnarch of Judea, the leader of the people, and his status as high priest was confirmed. Yet Antipater proceeded to make the administration of Judea a family matter. He appointed his elder son Phasael as governor of Jerusalem and his younger brother Herod, the younger brother Phasael, Herod as governor of Galilee. Herod, mind you, at that time was just 25 years old. The year is 47 BC. No warm welcome to Herod in Galilee. However, he gained the respect of the Roman governor in Syria by the way he dealt with the Galilean incursions. But the manner in which he dealt with these Galileans annoyed the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. It did not please the Jews in Jerusalem. But Hyrcanus paid no attention because he realized that Herod was a Roman stooge under the protection of the Romans. After Julius Caesar's assassination in 44 BC by the cabal of senators led by Brutus and Cassius, Mark Antony gave an emotional eulogy at Julius Caesar's funeral. However, Mark Antony was terribly disappointed that he was left out of Julius Caesar's will completely. Julius Caesar had appointed Octavian, his grandnephew, as his adopted son. Octavian wanted to punish the killers of his granduncle, Julius Caesar. This was the second triumvirate born: Octavian, Mark Antony, and Marcus Aemilius Lepidus. Antipater, at this moment, backed Cassius, the assassin of Julius Caesar. A bad move. With funds from Judea, Cassius promised to make him king of Judea after his struggle with Octavian and Mark Antony had been won. An outsider Idumean managed to secure large sums to fund Cassius. But Antipater, in the meanwhile, was poisoned. His death was not mourned by the Jews. In the Battle of Philippi, in 42 BC, dear friends, Octavian and Antony defeated Brutus and Cassius. Mark Antony married Octavian's sister, Octavia. Mark Antony had the command of Rome's eastern territories, and he became one of the most powerful figures in the region after Alexander the Great. In Judea now, Herod, how did his fortunes carry on? How was he affected since he had backed the wrong horse, Cassius? Cassius was now dead. How was he going to explain his allegiance to Cassius? Herod met Mark Antony with a huge bribe. Mark Antony remembered Herod's father, Antipater, who had treated him with great consideration when he was a young Roman officer. On the other hand, Herod, his son, was disliked by the Jews. Yet, Mark Antony preferred Herod and his brother Phasael over Hyrcanus to govern Judea for Rome. Now was Herod's opportunity to insert himself into Jewish history. Herod was betrothed to MARIAMNE the first, the granddaughter of both brothers, Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II. That is, Hyrcanus' daughter Alexandra married Aristobulus' son Alexander, and their offspring was MARIAMNE the first. Please see a picture on the screen. This was the second marriage, by the way, for Herod in 42 BC. The first marriage had been to a certain Doris, by whom he had his eldest son, Antipater, named after his own father. Now, by marrying MARIAMNE, Herod had inserted himself into the Hasmonean aristocracy, which had long tried to bring him down. Now he could claim leadership over Judea. There was nothing to stop him. Now, back in Judea, there is a new entrance. Antigonus, the nephew of Hyrcanus, that is his brother Aristobulus' son, that is MARIAMNE's uncle, his father's brother. I would like you to look at the screen. Antigonus, he had been out of contention for any post in Judea because Pompey at that time had trusted only Antipater and Hyrcanus II. Now Antigonus was at the door of Judea with the help of the Parthians. They are the Iranians. Hyrcanus was rendered unfit for priestly office because Antigonus cut off his ears. Antigonus next cornered Phasael, the brother of Herod, so that Phasael committed suicide. Now Antigonus sat comfortably on the throne of Jerusalem, with the help of the Parthians, of course, and the local Judeans who preferred Antigonus since he was the last Hasmonean alive. At this juncture, dear friends, Mark Antony stepped in and rewarded Herod for his fidelity, acumen, and achievements in favor of Rome. Antigonus with Parthians was dangerous to Rome and had to be removed. Octavian agreed, for he was grateful for the assistance Herod's father Antipater had given his granduncle Julius Caesar in Egypt. The Senate also agreed unanimously, and to his surprise, Herod, an Arab Edomite, at the age of 33 in the year 40 BC, was proclaimed ceremoniously King of Judea, Galilee, and Perea. Like you to go now to the next point. Herod and Augustus Caesar. When Herod was proclaimed king of Judea, Octavian was still not proclaimed as Caesar by the Roman Senate. That would come only in the year 27 BC. However, Herod remained close to Mark Antony because it was on account of Mark Antony that he became the king of Judea. He was very grateful to Mark Antony. Herod's main troublemaker, Antigonus, now ruled Judea. Now, with the help of the Romans, dear friends, he mounted an attack on Antigonus and got the Hasmonean out of the way. In the meanwhile, we have Herod, and by now he has two sons by Mariamne the first, the Hasmonean princess. The first son born to them in 36 BC is Alexander. The second son born the following year, 35 BC, is Aristobulus. These names keep on repeating. Since the death of Julius Caesar, dear friends, Mark Antony's relationship with Cleopatra outraged Octavian. Herod's allegiance, however, lay with Mark Antony. Mark Antony was better prepared for the war with the help of Egypt. But Octavian had a shrewd military strategist and tactician on both land and sea, Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa, Octavian's friend and advisor. It is he who won the Battle of Actium for Octavian in 31 BC. Both Mark Antony and Cleopatra committed suicide. With peace secured, Octavian restored the Republic back to the Senate, which promptly did the only sensible thing and commissioned him to continue taking care of it. The situation for Herod now was unnerving. Why? Because he had supported the wrong side. In an act of poor judgment, he had aided Mark Antony against Octavian. After the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, however, he regained poise and daring. Throwing himself on Octavian's mercy, he asked to be judged, not by whose friend I have been, but how loyal a friend. It worked. Augustus promised Herod would rule Judea more securely than before. Herod was loyal to Augustus for the rest of his life. Yet on the family front, dear friends, not all was well. He was getting suspicious of his Hasmonean wife, Mariamne the first. In the end, he had her killed in the year 29 BC out of jealousy, lest she fall into another man's hands. Subsequently, he married two of his own relations. First, his niece, next, a cousin. Their names remain unknown to history. In the year 27, this is an important moment, 16th of January, 27 BC, the Roman Senate proclaimed Octavian as Imperator Caesar Augustus. In the same year, Herod married his fifth wife, Malthace, a Samaritan, whose two sons, Archelaus and Antipas, were unexpectedly to become Herod's principal heirs. I want you to look at the figures on the screen. It will be this Herod Antipas, through Malthace the Samaritan, who would one day examine Jesus during his passion leading to his death. Herod's sixth wife is MARIAMNE the second, of whom Herod Philip the first is born. It is his wife Herodias who left him for Herod Antipas, Malchus' son, who John the Baptist will castigate for adultery. His seventh wife is Cleopatra of Jerusalem, whose son Philip II was named Tetrarch and becomes the third of Herod's primary heirs, along with Archelaus and Antipas, the sons of Malchus. Very little is known, dear friends, of his last three wives, Pallas, Pedra, and Elpis. I want you to see on the screen Herod and his 10 wives. We now come to the most significant part, the Romanization of Judea. With Herod's reign of Judea, the process of Romanization began with great intent. Herod saw Augustus Caesar an ideal model to imitate. The archaeological evidence today reveal on Herod's buildings and places a direct Hellenistic and Roman influence. Especially, we see that at the Herodium, Jericho, and Masada. His greatest building project, the Temple of Jerusalem, began in the year 20 BC. And the Caesarea's harbor were planned according to guidelines Herod followed of Hellenistic and Roman architecture. Herod did whatever Augustus Caesar did. Augustus Caesar built 2 magnificent temples, so did Herod. We come to Herod's 2 temples that illustrate the skill and grace with which he symbolically presented the empire to the people of Palestine, just as Augustus had done this through his temples. The first is the renovation of the Jerusalem temple built in the Old Testament period by Zerubbabel in 515 BC. Herod obviously wanted to Romanize the Jerusalem temple in its appearance. The hill on which the temple stood was considered sacred by the Jews for centuries, deeply inscribed with Jewish memory and customs. Herod realized that the second temple of Zerubbabel did not quite measure up to Jewish memory and custom. According to Josephus the historian, Herod told the people what that temple lacked. He said it was not as high as Solomon's temple had been. It's time now to correct this deficiency, he said. But would the Jewish priests allow it? Would they entrust Zerubbabel's temple to Herod that he may renovate it? But Herod won over the priests and proceeded to turn the relatively small ancient temple into one of the largest centers it is in the Roman Empire. Like the Forum Romanum in Rome, the Temple of Jerusalem would undergo renovation that respected tradition while transcending it. It began in the year 20 BC and it was finished, however, just before Jesus began his ministry in the year 30. Of course, Herod the Great had died much, much earlier in the year 4 BC. But the model of the Herod's temple can now be seen on the screen. It's there for us to see in the Israeli Museum. What was unique about this temple? Herod constructed a massive platform of earth, 1,550 feet long and 1,000 feet wide and 100 feet high. His architecture evoked multiple cultures and themes as one looked at the renovated temple. He introduced something that had never appeared in any previous version of the temple, either architectural or literary. What was it? It was a Herodian innovation, the court of the Gentiles. I want you to see on the screen the interior design of the Jerusalem temple. You see there, low below, the court of the women, and then the outermost court, the lowest court in the diagram, is the court of the Gentiles. It appears small here. Why did Herod introduce the court of the Gentiles in his temple layout? I want you to see the screen once again, the court of the Gentiles. Now you can observe how really large the court of the Gentiles is almost 2/3 of the entire layout. Literally, all the visible area outside of the visible temple precincts. Scholars think that Herod wanted to bring the Roman world to Jerusalem. Did he want to turn the temple into a tourist attraction? Or was it only for pious pilgrims, Gentiles I mean, because the Jews could go in? Scholars have pointed out at the stoa lining the colonnades on the sides, which were meant to receive in full majesty many of the guests and pilgrims who thronged to Jerusalem for various religious festivals. The court of the Gentiles, dear friends, is probably Herod's most magnificent secular construction. Josephus remarks about this construction. He says, the three-sided structure, the stoa, as deserving to be mentioned better than any other under the sun. The court of the Gentiles altered the Jews' image of the empire. It showed the temple opened to the Roman Empire. Whenever a Gentile entered the space to offer sacrifice, the empire and the temple came together. Herod wanted to socialize the Jews of Jerusalem to the Roman Empire. See the impression left by Byron McCain, a historian of early Judaism and ancient religions. This is what he has to say. Taking a page from Augustus Caesar, who reconfigured the Roman Forum Romanum to integrate the empire with the finest traditions of Rome, Herod reconfigured the temple to integrate the empire with the finest traditions of Judaism. We come to the second important construction by Herod, Caesarea Maritima, port city open to the west. Just as Caesar Augustus, dear friends, built a second temple in his Forum Augustum, Herod built a second temple at Caesarea Maritima on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea between the year 22 and 9 BC. It was a huge complex facing the harbor, and in the center of it, he built a temple to the memory of Roma and Augustus. The remains of the temple are not entirely preserved, since in subsequent centuries, it first became a Christian church, then a medieval mosque, and then once again a medieval church. It was fully destroyed during the Muslim conquest of 640 CE or AD. I want you to see on the screen Caesarea Maritima, what is left of it now. The message was Rome rules. Yet the purpose behind this architectural grandeur, dear friends, was to invite participation in the empire by making the empire seem attractive. I now would like to conclude, dear friends. Both Augustus and Herod realized the material and social conditions of their world had changed. that Roman administrative control was going to generate a new pattern for civilization. Augustus stepped out front to lead the parade, and Herod fell right in step behind him. The sophistication of these structures and their resonance with the most important currents in the larger world of his day firmly established Herod as a figure of high prominence in the early history of Roman Empire, and established him as a figure of unparalleled prominence in the history of the Romanization of Palestine. Let's pray, dear friends. Lord, you let worldly leaders raise masterpieces in stone and marble. Through architecture, we are able to give praise to you, O God, who enabled them to do this in the first place. Yet at the same time, guide our own motivations when we strive to produce works in your name. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Thank you, dear friends, for being here this evening. I wish you a good evening. Wish to see you for the second part of this episode. Thank you.